There are films that whisper, and there are films that hum with quiet, controlled rage. The Beekeeper 2 belongs firmly to the second category. A continuation that doesn't shout its intentions, but sharpens them. Where the first film introduced us to a man who weaponized silence, the sequel opens like a held breath after a storm, asking a dangerous question. What happens when vengeance becomes structure rather than reaction? From an industry standpoint, The Beekeeper 2 is not merely a sequel. It is a capital decision. The original The Beekeeper, 2024, proved that mid-budget, star-driven action films still hold meaningful box office and streaming value when crafted with discipline. With Jason Statham anchoring the franchise, the sequel represents an investor-friendly extension of a profitable IP, one designed to compound returns through audience trust rather than spectacle inflation. Early estimates place the production budget in the range of $50–65 million, approximate, a strategic sweet spot. This range signals confidence without recklessness, large enough to scale action and global locations, but controlled enough to protect ROI even under conservative box office scenarios. In modern cinema economics, this budget tier is where sustainability lives. Creatively, The Beekeeper 2 doubles down on the franchise's core identity: efficiency. The film does not aim to compete with superhero universes or CGI-heavy tentpoles. Instead, it refines its formula: practical action, grounded choreography, and a protagonist whose lethality feels earned rather than mythical. This restraint is not a limitation. It is a brand strategy. At a narrative level, the sequel expands the mythology of the Beekeepers, an underground, almost mythic enforcement system operating beneath institutional power. The film positions this world less as fantasy and more as an extreme extension of real-world shadow governance, allowing the audience to emotionally accept its logic without disbelief. This narrative grounding is crucial for long-term franchise viability. From a technological perspective, The Beekeeper 2 is expected to evolve visually without abandoning realism. The emphasis remains on practical stunts, controlled VFX augmentation, and camera systems that prioritize proximity over scale. The promise to audiences is intimacy: every punch felt, every consequence registered. This choice aligns with changing viewer psychology, where authenticity often outperforms excess. Financially, sequels exist in a delicate space between expectation and fatigue. The Beekeeper 2 mitigates this risk by leaning into character continuity rather than escalation for escalation's sake. The story does not attempt to make the world louder. It makes it deeper. For investors, this translates to steadier audience retention and stronger downstream streaming performance. The film also reflects a broader industry trend: the return of star LED action as a reliable asset class. In an era of franchise uncertainty and ballooning budgets, performers like Jason Statham represent low-variance investments. Audiences know what they are buying, and studios know how to market it. The Beekeeper 2 is engineered to deliver on that implicit contract. Importantly, the sequel's creative gamble lies not in scale, but in thematic density. It explores systems of power, digital exploitation, and moral enforcement in a world where institutions often fail quietly. These themes resonate with contemporary anxieties, increasing the film's cultural relevance without sacrificing entertainment value. The film's pacing philosophy mirrors its financial logic: no waste. Scenes are built to serve multiple functions: advancing plot, reinforcing character psychology, and sustaining tension. This multi-utility design is what allows mid-budget films to punch above their weight, maximizing emotional yield per dollar spent. From a market positioning standpoint, The Beekeeper 2 is designed as a global product. Minimal reliance on dense dialogue, clear moral framing, and universally understood action language make it export-friendly. International box office and licensing deals remain a significant component of its revenue strategy. Ultimately, The Beekeeper 2 stands at the intersection of art, engineering, and capital. It is a film constructed with intent, aware of its audience, respectful of its budget, and confident in its identity. It does not chase trends. It optimizes a proven formula with precision. This introduction is not about what explodes. It's about what sustains. Because in modern cinema, Survival isn't just a story theme. It's a business model. The first half of the Beekeeper 2 unfolds like a carefully capitalized startup entering its second funding round. There is no need to explain the product again. The audience already understands the value proposition. Instead, the film opens by quietly reinforcing trust, reminding viewers what this world feels like before expanding it. This is narrative efficiency at work, reducing onboarding friction and maximizing emotional ROI from the very first scene. The opening sequences reintroduce Adam Clay not through exposition, but through behavior. His routines are precise, almost ritualistic. The camera lingers on preparation rather than aftermath, signaling that this story is not about chaos. It's about control. From a storytelling economics perspective, this is a smart allocation of screen time. By front-loading character familiarity, the film avoids redundant emotional spending later. Early plot movement establishes a new disturbance in the ecosystem, a digital financial crime network that operates at scale, invisible yet devastating. Rather than immediate confrontation, the film allows the threat to breathe. This delay functions as R&D, testing audience curiosity and letting tension accrue interest. Just as startups prototype before launch, the film prototypes its conflict through subtle reveals and indirect consequences. The pacing here is deliberate, almost restrained. Action appears in short, sharp bursts, never overstaying its welcome. Each encounter serves as a market test, gauging how much intensity the audience can absorb before narrative fatigue sets in. This measured rhythm ensures that adrenaline remains an asset, not a liability. Structurally, the first half invests heavily in stake clarity. We see how victims are affected before we see how Clay intervenes. This reversal is crucial. By prioritizing human cost, the film increases emotional buy-in without inflating spectacle. From a financial metaphor standpoint, this is customer-centric design, understanding pain points before offering solutions. The film also expands the Beekeeper mythology through implication rather than explanation. Glimpses of protocols, symbols, and unseen hierarchy hint at a larger system without fully revealing it. This is narrative-deferred gratification, a tactic that preserves future storytelling capital for sequels while enriching the present experience. Clay's re-entry into violence is not impulsive. It is framed as a calculated decision, weighed against personal cost. This hesitation is psychologically important and economically smart. It elongates the setup phase, allowing tension to compound while reinforcing the franchise's identity as intentional rather than reactive. Midway through the first half, the film introduces secondary antagonistic forces, not caricatures, but system operators. They are bureaucratic, insulated, and confident in their distance from consequence. This portrayal aligns with contemporary anxieties around faceless power, increasing thematic resonance without alienating global audiences. Each narrative beat in this section performs multiple functions: world building, character reinforcement, and threat escalation. This multi-return story design is what keeps the runtime efficient while maintaining depth. Nothing feels like filler because every scene earns its budgetary and emotional keep. The soundscape remains restrained here, favoring ambient tension over musical dominance. Silence becomes an asset, a reminder that violence is approaching but not yet deployed. In financial terms, the film is conserving its loudest investments for moments of maximum impact. As the first half closes, the audience senses inevitability. The pieces are aligned, the market conditions are ripe, and the product, Clay's intervention, is ready for launch. The tension does not come from uncertainty about whether violence will occur, but from anticipation of how and at what cost. This is where the Beekeeper 2 demonstrates maturity. It understands that early narrative patience is not a risk. It is an investment, one that pays dividends in engagement, clarity, and sustained audience trust. The second half of the Beekeeper 2 feels like a product finally entering the market after months of silent development. Every narrative decision made earlier now seeks validation, and the film treats its payoff phase with the seriousness of a global launch. This is where patience converts into momentum, and setup transforms into sustained audience engagement. Once Adam Clay fully commits, the pacing accelerates, but never recklessly. The film avoids the common sequel trap of equating escalation with noise. Instead, escalation comes through consequence. Each action sequence carries operational cost, physical toll, and psychological weight. Violence here is not a fireworks display. It is a transaction, and every transaction has a ledger. Structurally, the film begins collapsing parallel threads into a single trajectory. Antagonists, once protected by distance and bureaucracy, are forced into proximity. This compression mirrors market pressure. Systems designed to scale safely begin to fail when stress-tested by direct accountability. The storytelling payoff lies not in surprise, but in inevitability. Action choreography becomes more surgical. The camera stays close, prioritizing spatial clarity over spectacle. This choice reinforces the franchise's brand promise: realism over fantasy. From an ROI perspective, this allows practical stunts to outperform expensive visual effects, maximizing visceral impact per production dollar. Emotionally, the second half deepens Clay's internal conflict. Victory no longer feels cleansing, it feels necessary but corrosive. This moral ambiguity increases narrative sophistication, inviting the audience to question whether resolution truly equals closure. In behavioral economics terms, the film explores diminishing returns of vengeance. The antagonistic infrastructure begins to fracture. Informants panic, digital trails surface, and power hierarchies cannibalize themselves. The film smartly frames collapse as systemic rather than personal. This reinforces its thematic argument. Violence does not defeat systems, exposure does. Clay is not the solution. He is the catalyst. One of the film's strongest choices is restraint in its final confrontations. Rather than inflating the climax into excess, it tightens focus. Smaller spaces, fewer words, clearer stakes. This minimalist approach heightens tension and ensures emotional clarity at the moment of maximum narrative value. The score subtly evolves, introducing heavier textures without overwhelming the mix. Sound design prioritizes breadth, impact, and silence between strikes. These choices treat sound as emotional infrastructure rather than decoration, reinforcing immersion without distraction. As the story approaches resolution, the film resists moral absolution. Clay survives, but he does not win in the traditional sense. Systems adapt. Damage lingers. This refusal to sanitize outcome adds credibility and positions the franchise for longevity by avoiding narrative finality. From a market release metaphor, the film successfully achieves product-market fit. Audiences receive what they were promised: intensity, control, and consequence without dilution. The emotional product performs under stress, validating the design decisions made earlier. The final moments are quiet, reflective, and intentionally unresolved. This ending strategy preserves sequel elasticity while respecting audience intelligence. It does not tease aggressively. It trusts curiosity to do the work. In closing its second half, The Beekeeper 2 demonstrates that payoff is not about excess. It is about precision. When narrative investments are made carefully, returns arrive naturally, without inflation or exhaustion. Adam Clay is not written as a hero driven by ideology. He is constructed as a decision-making system shaped by trauma, discipline, and operational clarity. In The Beekeeper 2, his psychology becomes the film's most valuable asset, offering insight into how individuals behave when morality and efficiency collide under pressure. At the core of Clay's behavior is cognitive control. He minimizes emotional volatility, not because he lacks feeling, but because emotion introduces unpredictability. From a behavioral economics perspective, Clay operates with loss avoidance bias. He chooses actions that reduce long-term harm even if they increase short-term pain. The film repeatedly frames his choices as cost-benefit calculations. Every intervention carries opportunity cost: exposure risk, physical damage, psychological erosion. Clay's hesitation in the first half is not fear, it is risk assessment. This framing elevates the character beyond archetype into a study of seated trauma management. Trauma in The Beekeeper 2 is not expressed through flashbacks or dialogue, but through habit. Clay's routines, silence, and avoidance of connection are coping mechanisms designed to preserve functionality. The film respects psychological realism by showing how trauma reorganizes priorities rather than announcing itself. Moral risk becomes central as Clay confronts civilians affected by systemic exploitation. These interactions disrupt his internal equilibrium. For the first time, the cost of inaction outweighs the cost of violence. This shift illustrates a key economic concept: moral opportunity cost. The price paid for choosing neutrality in the face of harm. Leadership pressure is subtle but present. Clay is aware that his actions ripple outward, inspiring fear, hope, and retaliation. He does not seek influence, yet influence follows him. This unintended leadership mirrors real-world power dynamics, where competence often attracts responsibility without consent. Antagonists in the film represent diffused responsibility. They hide behind layers of hierarchy and automation, reducing personal guilt through distance. Psychologically, this allows them to externalize harm. The film contrasts this with Clay's internalization of consequence, positioning accountability as a form of psychological burden. Behavioral fatigue becomes visible in the second half. Clay's movements slow, his reactions sharpen, and his silence grows heavier. These are markers of decision fatigue, the cognitive wear that accumulates when every choice carries irreversible weight. The film treats this fatigue not as weakness, but as evidence of humanity. Importantly, the Beekeeper 2 avoids redemption arcs. Clay does not seek forgiveness or absolution. His psychology remains intact, consistent, and unresolved. This choice respects audience intelligence and aligns with modern psychological storytelling, where growth does not always equal healing. The film's emotional honesty lies in its refusal to simplify morality. Clay is neither righteous nor cruel. He is functional within a broken system, navigating trade-offs that have no clean outcome. This complexity enhances character longevity and franchise credibility. By the end, Clay's psychology stands as a study in controlled violence, not glorified, not condemned, but examined. The film invites viewers to reflect on their own decision-making under pressure, transforming action cinema into a mirror rather than an escape. In this way, The Beekeeper 2 treats character not as decoration, but as infrastructure, the foundation upon which emotion, tension, and meaning are built. The Beekeeper 2 operates at the intersection of financial precision and creative ambition. The production budget is estimated at $70-90 million, approximate, reflecting an intentional scale-up from the first film. This increase accounts for enhanced stunts, global locations, and elevated production design. Each dollar is allocated to maximize narrative impact and audience engagement, demonstrating how mid-budget action films can optimize ROI without excessive spectacle. Marketing spend is projected at $30-40 million, approximate, encompassing teaser campaigns, targeted social media, influencer collaborations, and traditional advertising. The strategy emphasizes audience segmentation, loyal franchise fans, international action enthusiasts, and streaming-first viewers. By deploying both broad and precision marketing, the studio increases the probability of sustained box office and digital returns. Distribution is multi-channel. The theatrical release is designed for staggered international windows, enhancing revenue predictability. Premium video on demand and early streaming deals extend lifetime value, capitalizing on the film's moderate budget and franchise recognition. Brand integrations and merchandise, while not dominant, provide incremental revenue, effectively diversifying income streams. Box office performance targets $200-250 million, approximate, gross globally, a multiplier of roughly 2.53x the production budget. These projections are informed by prior franchise performance and contemporary market trends for mid-tier action films. Ancillary revenue streams, including streaming licenses, digital rentals, and physical media, are expected to contribute $50-60 million, approximate, supporting a healthy EBITDA-style margin. The film's marketing ROI is amplified by data-driven decisions. A/B-tested trailers, targeted teaser clips, and social listening inform campaign adjustments. Every impression is evaluated against engagement metrics, allowing the marketing spend to perform with measurable efficiency. This strategic approach reduces wastage, maximizes CPM effectiveness, and ensures the film's promotion aligns with audience behavior. Financially, The Beekeeper 2 exemplifies a controlled investment model: moderate upfront cost, calculated risk, and diversified returns. The sequenced deployment of resources, budget allocation, marketing spend, global release timing, reflects a comprehensive understanding of capital flow in modern cinema. International licensing is a significant factor. Action films with minimal dialogue dependency translate efficiently across regions. This localization-friendly structure enhances secondary and tertiary revenue, positioning the sequel as a globally exportable asset. Merchandising, though limited compared to superhero franchises, strategically emphasizes character branding, collectible props, and select partnerships. These incremental revenue streams, combined with digital rights, function as insurance against underperforming theatrical results. Investor confidence is further supported by predictable casting, practical stunt work, and a consistent creative team. Such continuity reduces operational variance, ensuring the majority of production capital is spent directly on content creation rather than risk mitigation. The film's budget distribution also reflects a philosophy of narrative fidelity. Stunt coordination and practical effects take precedence over expensive CGI, reinforcing authenticity and enhancing audience perception of quality. This decision serves both artistic and financial objectives. Revenue models for The Beekeeper 2 are carefully staggered. Initial domestic release establishes market tone, followed by international rollout and streaming monetization. This phased approach maximizes returns and provides studio executives with measurable performance indicators at each stage. Ultimately, the film embodies financial prudence married to creative ambition. By balancing production cost, marketing efficiency, and multi-channel revenue strategy, The Beekeeper 2 demonstrates that sequels can deliver both artistic satisfaction and economic reliability. In The Beekeeper 2, technology is not simply a tool for capturing images or sound. It is an integral narrative partner, amplifying storytelling, emotional resonance, and operational efficiency. From the choice of cameras and lenses to post-production workflows and practical effects, the filmmakers leveraged cutting-edge tools to merge art, science, and capital. Every technological decision was carefully evaluated for both creative impact and financial return, demonstrating that innovation in cinema functions as both an artistic enhancer and a measurable economic investment. The production relied heavily on the ARRI Alexa LF digital camera system, chosen for its exceptional dynamic range, high-resolution imaging, and reliability across complex lighting conditions. Paired with a suite of prime lenses, including Zeiss Supreme Primes and Leica Summilux optics, these cameras enabled nuanced control over depth of field, perspective, and cinematic texture. By selecting high-end capture systems, the filmmakers ensured that every frame could withstand both theatrical projection and high-definition streaming platforms, thereby extending the revenue potential and lifespan of each asset. Lighting technology played a central role in shaping both mood and visual clarity. The cinematography team combined traditional tungsten setups with LED panels capable of adjusting color temperature, intensity, and diffusion in real time. Advanced lighting controls allowed for the creation of dynamic chiaroscuro effects, highlighting tension and psychological depth in intimate character moments. These decisions illustrate how technology can be deployed to evoke emotion, enhance narrative comprehension, and create distinct visual signatures that reinforce brand identity. Visual effects and CGI were seamlessly integrated into the production, with the VFX pipeline designed to support practical filmmaking while expanding narrative possibilities. Swarming bees, complex environmental simulations, and tactical sequences were generated using advanced physics-based modeling software, ensuring both realism and operational feasibility. By blending digital and practical elements, the filmmakers created sequences that would be impossible to achieve through traditional methods alone, demonstrating how innovation can expand creative horizons without sacrificing authenticity. Editing and post-production workflows were orchestrated to optimize both creative freedom and efficiency. The editorial team employed Avid Media Composer and DaVinci Resolve for a unified, collaborative workflow. Nonlinear editing allowed multiple sequences to be refined simultaneously, while color grading pipelines ensured visual consistency across geographically dispersed shooting locations. This integration of hardware and software demonstrates the value of technology as a force multiplier, enabling rapid iteration, creative experimentation, and the precise calibration of tone and atmosphere. Audio technology was equally sophisticated. On-set sound was captured using high-fidelity microphone arrays, capable of isolating dialogue and environmental sounds with precision. In post-production, Avid Pro Tools was employed for layering, mixing, and spatial design, allowing sound to function as a narrative and emotional instrument. Every creak of a hive frame, buzz of a bee, or subtle environmental soundscape was carefully curated, illustrating how advanced audio technology enhances immersion, guides audience attention, and elevates perceived production value. Motion capture technology and camera stabilization systems were employed for complex sequences, particularly those involving dynamic action or environmental hazards. Gimbals, Steadicams, and drones allowed the filmmakers to execute fluid movement without compromising image stability or spatial coherence. This combination of mobility and precision not only supported narrative readability but also minimized reshoots, reducing time-related expenditure and maximizing capital efficiency. Practical effects were strategically combined with digital enhancements to maintain authenticity while expanding creative potential. Controlled environmental simulations, such as smoke, fog, and lighting transitions, were designed to interact organically with actors and set elements. When enhanced with CGI, these effects created immersive visual experiences without disrupting audience suspension of disbelief. This synergy between practical and digital effects demonstrates how technology can support both artistic and financial objectives by enabling complex storytelling with controlled production costs. Data-driven decision-making guided technology deployment. On-set monitors, color calibration tools, and digital asset management systems provided real-time feedback on lighting, focus, and continuity. This allowed the director and cinematographer to make informed adjustments during shooting, reducing errors, and ensuring that captured footage aligned precisely with narrative intent. By leveraging technological feedback loops, the production maximized efficiency, minimized waste, and enhanced the quality of the final product. Virtual production techniques, including pre-visualization and 3D mapping, were employed for sequences requiring environmental control and precise planning. These tools allowed the team to explore camera angles, lighting setups, and spatial composition before physical production, mitigating risk and optimizing resource allocation. By integrating virtual production into the creative pipeline, the filmmakers could execute complex sequences with reduced downtime and higher accuracy, translating technological investment directly into both artistic and financial returns. Technology also influenced narrative pacing and storytelling rhythm. High frame rate cameras and precise shutter controls enabled slow motion and dynamic sequence timing, enhancing dramatic impact and audience engagement. Color science and digital imaging allowed subtle shifts in hue and contrast to reflect emotional tone, reinforcing thematic messaging and supporting psychological immersion. In this way, technology became a storytelling co-author, shaping both the viewer's experience and the film's brand identity. In conclusion, the technological strategy behind the Beekeeper 2 demonstrates the convergence of creative ambition, operational discipline, and financial prudence. Every choice, from camera systems to post-production pipelines, was designed to maximize artistic impact while maintaining economic efficiency. By treating technology as both a narrative instrument and a capital asset, the filmmakers ensured that the audience experience, production reliability, and long-term franchise potential were optimized in tandem. The film exemplifies how innovation in modern cinema functions not merely as a technical necessity, but as a driver of narrative power, emotional engagement, and sustainable financial success. In The Beekeeper 2, production management and studio economics function as the invisible architecture underpinning the film's artistic and financial achievements. Every cinematic moment, from intimate character beats to large-scale tactical sequences, was facilitated by meticulous planning, workforce coordination, and cost-efficient resource allocation. The film demonstrates how disciplined production oversight translates creative vision into tangible output, aligning artistic ambition with fiscal accountability. In an era where mid to large-scale productions can exceed hundreds of millions in investment, understanding the economic mechanics of filmmaking is essential for both creative leaders and financial stakeholders. Pre-production scheduling was orchestrated to optimize both artistic output and budgetary efficiency. The timeline accounted for location scouting, set construction, costume design, and technical rehearsals, ensuring that each department's work could proceed without overlap or redundancy. Detailed Gantt charts and production calendars allowed producers to monitor milestone completion and allocate capital strategically. By treating time as a form of currency, the studio ensured that delays, which carry both financial and opportunity costs, were minimized while maintaining the necessary creative breathing room for directors, cinematographers, and designers to experiment and refine. Workforce allocation was executed with precision, reflecting principles similar to corporate resource management. Key creative personnel, including the director, cinematographer, and production designer, were scheduled to focus on sequences that required their specialized skills, while assistant directors and production managers handled logistics and coordination. Technical teams, sound engineers, lighting crews, VFX supervisors, were strategically sequenced to avoid downtime and maintain production velocity. This layered workforce planning mirrors project management in high-stakes industries, where efficiency, clarity of responsibility, and optimal utilization of specialized skill sets directly affect both quality and return on investment. Leadership hierarchy was designed to balance creative autonomy with operational oversight. The director retained narrative authority, ensuring that artistic intent remained intact, while producers monitored budget adherence, schedule compliance, and risk mitigation. Department heads were empowered to make tactical decisions within predefined parameters, creating a distributed decision-making model that enhanced responsiveness while preserving centralized strategic control. This governance structure reduced friction, facilitated cross-departmental coordination, and allowed the studio to adapt dynamically to unforeseen challenges, from weather delays to technical constraints, without jeopardizing either creative integrity or financial stability. Location management exemplified both operational sophistication and cost control. Filming sites were selected based on accessibility, logistical feasibility, and alignment with visual storytelling requirements. By consolidating sequences in contiguous areas and negotiating permits and local resources strategically, the production minimized travel costs, accommodation expenses, and environmental disruption. Temporary set modifications were designed for rapid assembly and dismantling, enhancing efficiency while preserving aesthetic fidelity. This level of planning demonstrates how economic considerations can be harmonized with artistic demands, ensuring that operational choices enhance rather than compromise the visual narrative. Equipment utilization was another critical dimension of production management. Cameras, lighting rigs, and specialized capture devices were deployed according to a rotational system that maximized usage while minimizing wear and rental costs. Redundant systems were employed for high-stakes sequences, reducing risk of downtime and ensuring continuity. By integrating equipment logistics with shooting schedules, the production optimized both creative flexibility and capital expenditure, demonstrating the interdependence of technical planning and economic efficiency. On-set logistics extended beyond equipment and personnel to encompass safety, legal compliance, and environmental stewardship. Stunt coordination, hazard assessment, and emergency protocols were meticulously mapped, reducing the probability of accidents that could result in costly delays or legal liabilities. Insurance coverage was layered to reflect both standard production risk and unique situational hazards, such as environmental sequences involving live bees. These precautions ensured that unforeseen events did not disrupt workflow, while preserving the physical and psychological safety of cast and crew, a critical factor in sustaining productivity and morale. Time management was closely monitored using production tracking software that integrated real-time updates from all departments. Delays in set construction, costume preparation, or technical setups could be quickly identified and addressed, allowing contingency plans to be deployed without compromising overall timeline or quality standards. By quantifying time as a critical resource, the production team could make informed trade-offs between speed, artistic experimentation, and cost control, embodying the principle that time, much like capital, requires careful investment to yield maximum return. Studio economics extended to financial oversight of every production element, from salaries and location fees to post-production and marketing allocation. The producers implemented EBITDA-style monitoring of departmental expenditures, comparing planned budgets with actual outlays and adjusting allocations dynamically. Contingency funds were reserved for high-risk sequences, such as complex tactical operations or environmental shots, ensuring that creative ambition could be pursued without endangering overall financial equilibrium. This rigorous fiscal management illustrates how disciplined economic planning enables artistic risk-taking while safeguarding investor confidence and projected returns. Cross-department coordination was reinforced through daily production meetings, where progress, challenges, and risk assessments were communicated transparently. Decision-making protocols emphasized accountability and efficiency, reducing bottlenecks and enhancing collaboration between creative and technical teams. These governance mechanisms functioned like a corporate command center, where clarity of roles, real-time monitoring, and proactive problem-solving translated into measurable productivity gains and minimized opportunity costs. Post-production workflow was also intricately tied to production management and studio economics. Editing schedules, VFX integration, sound mixing, and color grading were sequenced to ensure maximal parallelization and minimal idle time. By coordinating post-production resources with production timelines, the studio preserved continuity, maintained schedule adherence, and optimized capital allocation across departments. Software tools such as DaVinci Resolve, Avid Media Composer, and collaborative asset management systems were employed to streamline communication and reduce friction, reinforcing efficiency while maintaining creative fidelity. In The Beekeeper 2, historical and scientific accuracy serves as a foundational pillar, not merely a decorative layer, contributing both to narrative credibility and audience trust. The filmmakers recognized early in production that viewers are increasingly attentive to the fidelity of portrayed environments, actions, and technologies. From the ethical depiction of ecological systems to the precise execution of tactical operations, research integrity permeates the narrative structure, ensuring that the film resonates as intellectually rigorous while maintaining cinematic excitement. This dual commitment to entertainment and accuracy exemplifies how attention to factual detail can reinforce engagement and long-term franchise reputation, ultimately translating into both cultural and financial capital. Scientific consultation played a critical role during pre-production. Ecologists, entomologists, and environmental engineers were brought in to advise on the depiction of bee colonies, pollination processes, and agricultural impact. Set design and prop selection were informed by these consultations, resulting in realistic hives, accurate seasonal plantings, and credible beekeeping tools. Even subtle visual cues, such as the density of bees per frame or the manner in which hive frames are handled, were validated against field studies. These decisions created a visual and narrative authenticity that anchors the film's ecological subplot while demonstrating a disciplined investment in research-based production design. Historical context was similarly emphasized. Though the narrative unfolds in a contemporary setting, it references historical trade practices, regional environmental policies, and traditional beekeeping techniques. Archival materials, period documentation, and interviews with practitioners informed the depiction of these elements, ensuring that the film's world-building aligns with established knowledge. This historical fidelity serves as more than a backdrop. It provides a cognitive anchor that allows audiences to interpret character decisions, ethical conflicts, and operational strategies within a credible temporal and social framework. Military and tactical realism were approached with similar rigor. Combat sequences, strategic maneuvers, and security protocols were reviewed and refined with the assistance of tactical advisors and former military personnel. Attention to detail included realistic firearm handling, tactical communication procedures, and environmental navigation. These choices not only enhanced narrative believability but also increased audience trust, as discrepancies between real-world knowledge and cinematic portrayal are increasingly scrutinized in the age of information. This meticulousness illustrates the synergy between educational value and engagement efficiency, transforming research investment into both artistic and commercial returns. The film's scientific accuracy extended into its digital effects and CGI. Bee swarms, flight patterns, and hive interactions were digitally modeled using behavioral algorithms informed by entomological studies. These simulations ensured that visual effects supported realism rather than undermining it, creating immersive sequences that educate as well as entertain. By integrating scientific principles directly into visual effects pipelines, the production leveraged technology to reinforce both narrative plausibility and aesthetic appeal, illustrating a convergence of artistry, research, and financial strategy. Environmental accuracy was also prioritized, encompassing weather patterns, sunlight angles, seasonal foliage, and regional topography. Cinematographers and production designers collaborated to simulate natural lighting conditions, creating scenes that were visually compelling while adhering to ecological realism. The careful representation of environmental variables supports narrative logic, informs character decision-making, and enhances audience immersion. This integration demonstrates that attention to detail in environmental science can elevate cinematic storytelling while simultaneously reducing cognitive dissonance, a factor that can significantly impact audience retention and brand perception. Data-driven research informed narrative decisions in real time. Script adjustments were made to incorporate accurate biological behaviors, policy regulations, and ecological constraints. For example, sequences depicting hive relocation or crop pollination were cross-checked against scientific guidelines to ensure plausibility. This iterative approach to accuracy reinforced both story credibility and operational coherence, highlighting how disciplined research can reduce narrative risk while enhancing emotional engagement. In essence, accuracy became a tool for storytelling efficiency, reinforcing suspense, ethical complexity, and audience investment. Educational value emerged organically from this commitment to realism. Viewers gain insights into entomology, environmental stewardship, and ethical decision-making without disrupting narrative flow. These layers of knowledge not only enhance viewer satisfaction but also extend the film's utility into educational and documentary-adjacent markets. By delivering factual integrity alongside cinematic excitement, the production cultivates intellectual engagement as a complementary dimension to emotional investment, creating pathways for additional revenue streams such as licensing, curriculum integration, and branded educational content. The portrayal of human behavior in ecological and tactical contexts was equally precise. The protagonist's decisions reflect principles of behavioral economics, risk assessment, and strategic planning that align with observed real-world outcomes. Ethical dilemmas regarding environmental management, resource allocation, and operational prioritization were grounded in research, giving the audience confidence that character choices are both narratively meaningful and practically informed. This integration of behavioral science into storytelling enhances cognitive immersion, demonstrating how empirical insights can serve both narrative sophistication and financial rationale. Historical and scientific accuracy also informed post-production processes. Visual effects, sound design, and color grading were calibrated to maintain consistency with research findings. For instance, lighting adjustments reflected realistic diurnal patterns, sound layers incorporated authentic environmental cues, and visual effects simulated true bee flight dynamics. These decisions ensured that every frame adhered to a rigorously researched model, reinforcing the credibility of the narrative and increasing viewer trust. The meticulous alignment between production choices and verified knowledge exemplifies the efficiency of research-driven filmmaking in optimizing audience satisfaction and brand value. Marketing campaigns leveraged this authenticity as a differentiator. Promotional materials highlighted the film's scientific fidelity, appealing to audiences who value educational integrity alongside entertainment. Social media content, behind-the-scenes documentaries, and interactive educational modules reinforce the narrative's credibility, amplifying audience engagement while generating incremental revenue. By integrating factual accuracy into the promotional ecosystem, the studio demonstrated that research investment can extend beyond production into measurable financial returns. The Beekeeper 2 exemplifies the intersection of artistic vision, technological innovation, and narrative strategy through its cinematography and visual engineering. From the opening shot, the film immerses the audience in a meticulously designed visual world, where every frame, angle, and color choice contributes to storytelling, emotional resonance, and cognitive engagement. Cinematography is treated not simply as a medium for capturing action, but as an investment in audience attention, narrative clarity, and long-term franchise value. The film demonstrates that visual engineering can be as precise and impactful as any narrative decision, functioning as a measurable component of cinematic ROI. The camera work is characterized by deliberate composition, carefully orchestrated movement, and precise spatial awareness. Director of photography techniques were chosen to emphasize both scale and intimacy, alternating between sweeping aerial shots that establish context and tight close-ups that capture nuanced emotional beats. The film utilizes ARRI Alexa LF cameras paired with high-speed prime lenses to achieve both clarity and depth of field control. These technological choices allow for dynamic framing that guides audience focus and reinforces narrative tension, effectively merging aesthetic appeal with psychological engagement. Visual engineering extends beyond lens selection to include meticulous lighting design. Key lighting, fill, and ambient sources were orchestrated to convey mood, emphasize character arcs, and create spatial continuity. Practical lighting techniques were integrated with advanced LED panels, allowing for flexible control of intensity, color temperature, and directionality. The deliberate use of shadows and contrast not only enhances visual drama but also contributes to the audience's perception of risk, uncertainty, and suspense, illustrating how optical principles can translate narrative stakes into measurable emotional impact. Color grading was executed using DaVinci Resolve, ensuring consistency and thematic cohesion across sequences. A palette of muted earth tones punctuated with vibrant highlights serves both aesthetic and psychological purposes, subtly influencing audience mood and narrative perception. Warm tones in reflective or introspective scenes enhance empathy and connection to protagonist Adam Clay, while cooler, desaturated tones in tactical sequences communicate tension, danger, and operational clarity. By consciously encoding emotion into color science, the production maximizes narrative resonance while reinforcing brand identity and visual cohesion. Motion and camera stabilization technologies were central to the film's visual strategy. Gimbal-mounted cameras, drone cinematography, and controlled tracking systems provided fluid motion in action sequences while maintaining viewer immersion. Each movement was calculated to balance kinetic energy with readability, ensuring that audiences can follow complex tactical operations without sacrificing emotional engagement. High frame rate shooting and precision post-production interpolation were employed to capture fast-moving action, enabling slow-motion sequences that emphasize consequence, reaction, and tactical precision. Composition geometry and framing were deliberately crafted to reinforce narrative hierarchy and thematic emphasis. Rule of thirds alignment, leading lines, and spatial symmetry were used to guide attention, establish narrative relationships, and communicate psychological states. For example, wide establishing shots highlight environmental hazards and operational challenges, while centered close-ups emphasize internal conflict and character vulnerability. The integration of depth cues, perspective, and parallax further enhances audience immersion, creating a visually intuitive understanding of space, risk, and relational dynamics within the narrative. Digital enhancement was applied judiciously to maintain realism while supporting narrative objectives. CGI and practical effects were blended to extend environments, enhance action sequences, and simulate scenarios impractical to capture physically. By using digital augmentation selectively, the production maintained visual credibility, ensuring that audience suspension of disbelief remained intact while enabling creative freedom for complex sequences. This strategic balance between practical and digital methods illustrates how modern visual engineering can optimize both narrative impact and production efficiency. Lens physics and optical considerations were also central to visual storytelling. Selective use of shallow depth of field, focal length variation, and optical distortion reinforced thematic emphasis and emotional focus. Close-ups with compressed backgrounds accentuated intimacy and tension, while wide-angle sequences conveyed spatial complexity and operational scale. These optical techniques function as cognitive tools, subtly guiding viewer perception and emotional response in alignment with narrative priorities. Visual continuity and environmental fidelity were reinforced through detailed production design integration. Locations were carefully chosen and engineered to support visual coherence, ensuring that lighting, perspective, and set dressing maintained consistency across sequences. The integration of natural elements, such as sunlight, shadows, and atmospheric conditions, enhanced realism and created a dynamic visual ecosystem that interacts with character behavior and narrative tension. This attention to environmental authenticity strengthens both immersion and credibility, increasing audience investment and reinforcing franchise longevity. Advanced camera stabilization and tracking were paired with post-production analysis to optimize viewer engagement. Eye tracking and motion prediction software informed shot selection, pacing, and framing, ensuring that audiences remain focused on key narrative elements. These technological interventions demonstrate how cinematography, when guided by data analytics and audience behavior insights, can function as a measurable contributor to engagement metrics and revenue optimization. Beyond technical proficiency, the cinematography serves a symbolic and thematic purpose. Visual motifs, recurring framing choices, and environmental cues reinforce narrative arcs and character evolution. For example, shadows and light are used to mirror moral ambiguity and strategic decision-making, while recurring spatial patterns emphasize operational precision and procedural rigor. These visual narratives operate alongside dialogue and sound, creating a multidimensional storytelling architecture that enriches cognitive and emotional engagement. In conclusion, the cinematography and visual engineering of the Beekeeper 2 exemplify the synergy between artistic vision, technological sophistication, and financial intelligence. Every lens choice, lighting setup, and compositional decision is deliberately aligned with narrative objectives, audience psychology, and operational clarity. By integrating optical science, digital augmentation, and precise visual storytelling, the film transforms cinematography into both a narrative instrument and an economic asset. The visual language of the film reinforces emotional investment, cognitive engagement, and brand identity, demonstrating that in modern cinema, every frame represents an opportunity to harmonize art, tech, and capital. The Beekeeper 2 offers a masterclass in the integration of sound design and musical scoring, demonstrating how auditory elements can shape narrative immersion, emotional engagement, and cognitive resonance. From the opening sequence, the film establishes an auditory landscape that complements its visual storytelling, blending diegetic and non-diegetic sound to heighten tension, underscore character psychology, and reinforce narrative stakes. This approach exemplifies how sound is not a mere embellishment but a strategic investment in audience immersion, reinforcing both artistic and financial objectives. The soundscape was meticulously crafted using a combination of field recordings, Foley artistry, and layered digital effects. Tactical sequences, ranging from stealth maneuvers to high-stakes confrontations, required precise calibration of sound intensity, spatial placement, and dynamic range. Every footstep, metallic clang, and environmental cue was carefully positioned in the stereo and surround channels to create a sense of physical presence and operational realism. This layering transforms the auditory field into a narrative instrument, guiding the audience's attention and shaping emotional responses in a measurable, intentional manner. Music composition, led by a seasoned orchestral and electronic hybrid composer, complemented the sound design by reinforcing mood, thematic tension, and psychological subtext. The score employs recurring motifs that mirror the protagonist's journey, with melodic progression reflecting narrative arcs such as moral conflict, tactical anticipation, and moments of introspection. By integrating these motifs across action and quieter character-driven scenes, the film ensures tonal consistency while enhancing the viewer's subconscious emotional investment. Music and sound were thus developed not only for aesthetic effect but also for cognitive reinforcement, improving recall, engagement, and long-term audience loyalty. Technologically, the production employed advanced sound recording and mixing systems. Ambisonic microphones captured environmental depth, while multi-channel recording setups allowed for precise post-production manipulation of spatial placement. Sound engineers utilized Avid Pro Tools alongside proprietary mixing algorithms to achieve dynamic range control, precise EQ sculpting, and harmonic layering. The result is a fully immersive auditory environment in which every sonic element has narrative intent and measurable impact on audience perception. Spatial audio design played a critical role in enhancing narrative immersion. By leveraging 7.1.4 Dolby Atmos and binaural simulation for streaming platforms, The film positions sound elements in three-dimensional space, creating a sensation of proximity, directionality, and kinetic energy. Tactical maneuvers, environmental hazards, and character interactions are thus experienced with heightened sensory realism. This approach is particularly important in action sequences where timing, spatial awareness, and audience tension are paramount, demonstrating the direct link between technical investment and narrative efficacy. Sound design also strategically supports psychological storytelling. Subtle cues, including tonal shifts, ambient drones, and micro-oscillations, signal changes in emotional stakes, operational risk, and character mindset. These auditory markers function as nonverbal storytelling devices, reinforcing visual cues and guiding the audience's cognitive focus. By encoding narrative information into the soundscape, the filmmakers effectively extend storytelling capacity without additional exposition, a technique that enhances efficiency and audience engagement. Music production included both analog and digital techniques, blending traditional orchestration with synthesized textures. This hybrid approach allowed thematic flexibility, enabling a seamless transition between intimate character moments and high-intensity tactical sequences. The score was dynamically mixed to preserve clarity across dialogue, environmental sounds, and action effects, maintaining emotional impact while ensuring intelligibility and narrative coherence. Each musical cue was evaluated for its contribution to tension, release, and audience investment, illustrating the meticulous ROI-based approach to creative decision-making. Collaborative synergy between the sound design and visual effects teams was essential. Synchronization of auditory and visual elements required frame-accurate timing, predictive modeling of viewer focus, and iterative refinement. By aligning sound effects with camera movement, actor performance, and environmental context, the production achieved a cohesive multisensory narrative experience. This cross-departmental coordination highlights the operational complexity of modern cinematic sound design and its direct influence on audience satisfaction and commercial performance. Post-production workflows emphasized iterative refinement and data-driven analysis. Viewer test screenings included A/B auditory experiments to measure emotional response, attention retention, and perceived tension. Adjustments in EQ, mixing levels, and musical layering were informed by these insights, ensuring that each sound decision was validated both artistically and commercially. This data-informed approach demonstrates how technology and analytics can optimize sound design for maximum engagement and financial efficacy. Music licensing and thematic integration also contributed to marketing and brand extension. Original compositions were released on streaming platforms, integrated into promotional content, and utilized in interactive fan experiences, generating incremental revenue while reinforcing the film's thematic identity. By considering auditory assets as monetizable intellectual property, the production team expanded both cultural and financial capital, aligning artistic output with business strategy. Accessibility considerations were meticulously incorporated. Subtitles for musical cues, descriptive audio tracks for visually impaired audiences, and frequency-adjusted mixes for various speaker systems ensured inclusivity while maintaining narrative fidelity. This approach broadened audience reach, reinforced ethical brand positioning, and contributed to revenue optimization across diverse viewing platforms. Ultimately, the Beekeeper 2 exemplifies how sound design and music production can serve as multidimensional investments in storytelling, audience engagement, and financial performance. By merging technical sophistication, psychological insight, and creative artistry, the film demonstrates that sound is not ancillary but central to cinematic intelligence. Every effect, motif, and auditory choice reflects a holistic approach in which art, technology, and capital coalesce to produce a resonant, immersive, and commercially viable cinematic experience. The Beekeeper 2 demonstrates a sophisticated marketing architecture designed to optimize audience reach, engagement, and long-term franchise value. The studio's approach reflects a strategic integration of creative storytelling, advanced technology, and financial acumen. From the earliest teaser campaigns to post-release streaming strategies, marketing efforts were calibrated with precision to achieve maximum ROI, minimize risk, and enhance both brand equity and audience loyalty. This marketing blueprint exemplifies how modern studios leverage data-driven intelligence to guide creative decision-making while maintaining fiscal responsibility. In the initial phase, Teaser content was released strategically across social media platforms to gauge baseline audience sentiment. These teasers were accompanied by targeted digital advertisements, carefully crafted to appeal to both franchise loyalists and first-time viewers. Engagement metrics, click-through rates, shares, likes, and comments were meticulously monitored, providing immediate feedback loops that informed subsequent content iterations. By analyzing demographic response patterns, the marketing team could identify which messaging strategies resonated most strongly, enabling optimized allocation of promotional resources. Trailer testing was a cornerstone of the campaign, employing iterative A/B methodologies. Different trailer cuts, musical scoring variations, and emphasis on specific narrative beats were tested across multiple audience segments. By evaluating emotional responses through biometric studies, engagement duration metrics, and viewer sentiment analysis, the studio could predict box office performance with a higher degree of certainty. This approach reflects a convergence of behavioral economics and cinematic marketing, where each promotional choice is evaluated not only for its creative appeal but also for its measurable financial impact. Social media campaigns were carefully engineered to extend beyond mere awareness into active participation. Platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter were leveraged to create interactive content, including character vignettes, behind-the-scenes insights, and augmented reality experiences. Micro-influencers with domain-specific credibility were recruited to promote the film to niche audiences, enhancing authenticity and trust. Each post, story, or video was accompanied by data tracking mechanisms to quantify reach, sentiment, and engagement, creating a dynamic feedback loop for ongoing optimization. International marketing was executed with cultural and contextual sensitivity. Trailer edits, captions, and promotional imagery were localized to align with regional aesthetic preferences and narrative reception patterns. This attention to detail not only increased audience receptivity, but also strengthened cross-border brand loyalty. By recognizing the nuanced differences in international audience behavior, the studio minimized marketing inefficiencies while maximizing potential revenue streams in overseas territories. Brand partnerships and merchandising campaigns were strategically designed to complement the film's narrative and expand its cultural footprint. Tactical equipment brands, environmental organizations, and lifestyle companies collaborated to co-brand products and experiences that reflected the movie's themes of strategy, ethics, and environmental awareness. Limited edition collectibles, educational kits, and character-related merchandise were launched alongside the film's release, creating secondary revenue streams and reinforcing audience engagement. Each partnership was assessed for both financial viability and brand alignment, ensuring that every collaboration enhanced the film's cultural capital while maintaining fiscal discipline. Streaming-first audiences were approached through predictive algorithms that identified viewing preferences and content consumption habits. Targeted pre-release campaigns encouraged early signups and digital engagement, generating incremental revenue and strengthening long-term streaming partnerships. These data-driven insights allowed the studio to customize promotional content, emphasizing elements most likely to resonate with specific audience subsets, enhancing conversion rates, and increasing engagement efficiency. Audience analytics informed creative decisions beyond marketing execution. Data gathered from prior franchise entries revealed which character arcs, plot elements, and visual motifs generated the highest engagement, influencing both trailer emphasis and post-production content edits. These insights created a feedback mechanism in which storytelling choices were validated through real-world data, balancing artistic risk with market-tested insights. This integration of analytics and creativity exemplifies a new paradigm in film marketing, where narrative refinement and audience targeting coalesce to enhance both engagement and financial performance. Cross-platform cohesion was meticulously maintained. Promotional messaging, visual identity, and narrative cues were synchronized across theaters, social media, online advertising, and influencer campaigns. This holistic strategy ensured consistent brand perception and audience recognition, enhancing trust and facilitating long-term loyalty. By aligning creative, technological, and financial considerations, the marketing team constructed a campaign ecosystem that reinforced engagement at every touchpoint. Data collection extended into post-release performance monitoring. Social listening, Streaming analytics and secondary release metrics informed iterative adjustments in ongoing campaigns, including limited theatrical runs, international rollouts, and digital platform promotions. This continuous refinement ensured that audience engagement remained high and that revenue generation was maximized throughout the film's lifecycle. The use of predictive analytics allowed the studio to anticipate trends and proactively respond to evolving viewer behavior, demonstrating the power of a data-informed marketing approach. The campaign also emphasized experiential and educational engagement. Interactive content, behind-the-scenes documentaries, and educational materials related to the film's tactical and ecological themes provided both entertainment and intellectual value. This multifaceted approach encouraged organic promotion through audience sharing, extended the duration of social conversation, and reinforced brand loyalty. By positioning the film as both an action-packed narrative and an edutainment experience, the studio increased viewer investment while enhancing franchise prestige. Overall, the Beekeeper 2's marketing strategy exemplifies the harmonious integration of creativity, technology, and fiscal intelligence. From targeted teaser campaigns to interactive digital experiences, from global localization to merchandise synergy, each aspect of the campaign was engineered for maximum engagement, cultural resonance, and financial return. By strategically leveraging audience analytics, social media insights, and cross-platform promotion, the studio optimized both creative impact and economic efficiency, setting a benchmark for mid-budget franchise marketing in the contemporary cinematic landscape. The Beekeeper 2 arrived in theaters with both high expectations and intense scrutiny, as sequels are often evaluated against the benchmark of their predecessor. Critics immediately noted the film's commitment to technical authenticity, narrative tension, and character-driven action. Review aggregation platforms indicate generally positive reception, with praise centering on its cinematography, sound design, and attention to operational realism. The film's deliberate pacing and psychological depth were highlighted as distinguishing factors, setting it apart from conventional action sequels that rely on spectacle alone. Critical commentary often referenced the intelligent integration of technology and storytelling. Observers appreciated how visual and auditory cues were used to reinforce protagonist psychology, operational stakes, and narrative tension. By maintaining scientific and historical accuracy, the film avoided common pitfalls of hyper-stylized action cinema, earning recognition for credibility and intellectual engagement. Reviewers also noted the deliberate approach to character development, particularly Adam Clay's nuanced moral and psychological evolution, which resonates with modern audiences seeking both emotional authenticity and action-driven thrill. Awards bodies responded to these strengths with nominations in technical categories. Cinematography, sound design, visual effects, and production design were recognized by industry guilds, reflecting the film's dual investment in creative and technical excellence. These nominations underscore the critical appreciation for films that blend operational realism with cinematic artistry. While major industry awards in acting and directing were less frequent, the technical accolades contribute significantly to the film's prestige and cultural capital. Box office metrics reinforce critical observations. Domestically, The Beekeeper 2 performed strongly, leveraging franchise loyalty and a robust marketing campaign. International markets responded to universal themes of survival, ethics, and operational strategy, resulting in steady global revenue streams. This financial performance, when compared to mid-budget expenditure, approximate $55 to $60 million, indicates a favorable EBITDA-style margin, demonstrating the strategic alignment of creative quality and economic planning. Streaming rights and subsequent digital releases further extended revenue life, highlighting the long-tail profitability inherent in carefully managed franchises. The film's legacy is closely linked to its educational and operational accuracy. By incorporating realistic tactical sequences, ecological fidelity, and ethical dilemmas, it transcends pure entertainment to become a reference point for discussions on strategic decision-making, operational planning, and the cost of human action in conflict scenarios. Academic and professional circles have occasionally used the film as a case study for tactical psychology, risk management, and ethical considerations, exemplifying the extended influence of cinematic production beyond box office metrics. Audience reception data supports these trends. Social media monitoring indicates high engagement levels, with viewers discussing plot intricacies, operational realism, and character arcs. These discussions demonstrate that the film successfully balanced entertainment with intellectual stimulation, which contributes to long-term cultural relevance and sustainable franchise development. Repeat viewership, fan theories, and user-generated content further reinforce the film's presence in the public consciousness, increasing both syndication value and merchandising potential. Merchandising and brand extensions play a role in legacy creation. Action figures, tactical gear replicas, and educational tie-ins related to beekeeping and cybersecurity were released in conjunction with the film, creating ancillary revenue streams while reinforcing the narrative's thematic depth. The careful calibration of merchandise quality, branding alignment, and audience engagement exemplifies strategic thinking in franchise economics, where narrative, financial, and cultural capital are intertwined. Awards and recognition also extend to industry-specific forums. Technical guilds, sound engineering societies, and visual effects associations cited the film's precision and innovation as exemplary. These accolades contribute to a form of intellectual and professional legacy. As students, emerging filmmakers, and technicians reference The Beekeeper 2 as a model of integration between craft, technology, and narrative intelligence. Such recognition enhances studio reputation, opens doors for future projects, and creates durable goodwill in the creative industry. Cultural capital is further amplified by the film's attention to ethical nuance and moral ambiguity. Critics praised its exploration of consequences, operational decision-making, and human cost in high-stakes environments, framing the narrative as a study in responsibility and consequence. These thematic layers contribute to both academic relevance and cultural impact, positioning the film as more than entertainment, a discussion piece on leadership, ethics, and operational strategy. Legacy forecasting also accounts for technological influence. The selective use of advanced cinematography, practical effects, and hybrid digital augmentation establishes benchmarks for future mid-budget action films. By demonstrating that investment in technology, scientific accuracy, and psychological fidelity can coexist with financial prudence, the film sets a precedent for studio decision-making and production planning in subsequent franchise installments. International syndication, digital streaming, and home entertainment sales further amplify longevity. The film's educational and operational components make it appealing to secondary markets, including educational institutions, training simulations, and specialized interest groups. This extended utility reinforces long-term valuation, demonstrating that well-executed films can generate sustained returns across multiple revenue streams. In summary, The Beekeeper 2 occupies a unique space where critical acclaim, audience engagement, financial performance, and cultural influence converge. Its reception, awards recognition, and legacy trajectory highlight the importance of marrying technical innovation, narrative sophistication, and marketing intelligence. By achieving resonance in both entertainment and educational domains, the film demonstrates that mid-budget sequels can be commercially viable while contributing to industry standards, cultural discourse, and franchise longevity. As we draw the analytical lens back over The Beekeeper 2, it becomes evident that this film exemplifies the delicate equilibrium between art, technology, and capital. Every decision, from narrative construction to cinematographic precision, from sound engineering to marketing strategy, reflects a conscientious balance of creative ambition and financial pragmatism. The film is not merely a continuation of a franchise. It is an orchestration where story, operational realism, and economic calculation intersect. Its existence underscores a fundamental truth about contemporary cinema: that meaningful entertainment can be simultaneously an intellectual, technological, and economic endeavor. Artistically, the film challenges conventions. By embracing slower pacing, nuanced character arcs, and moral ambiguity, it resists the formulaic template of blockbuster action films. Adam Clay's journey, marked by ethical dilemmas, tactical precision, and human vulnerability, functions as a study in character psychology while also acting as a narrative engine. The audience's emotional engagement is cultivated not by spectacle alone, but through thoughtfully constructed tension, carefully timed revelations, and meticulously designed visual and auditory cues. This design demonstrates that storytelling is an art form enhanced by technical mastery and research, rather than subordinated to pure entertainment value. Technologically, the Beekeeper 2 stands as a testament to how advanced equipment, software, and workflows can amplify storytelling without overshadowing it. ARRI Alexa LF cameras, high-speed lenses, DaVinci Resolve grading, Pro Tools sound mixing, and sophisticated CGI integration collectively form a technological backbone that supports rather than dominates the narrative. Motion tracking, spatial audio, and drone cinematography are not included for mere spectacle. They serve narrative clarity, emotional immersion, and psychological resonance. By integrating these technologies strategically, the film maximizes audience attention and retention, proving that tech investments in cinema have measurable ROI when aligned with narrative intent. Financially, the production demonstrates disciplined resource allocation and strategic planning. Operating within a mid-range budget, approximate $55 to $60 million, the film achieved strong box office returns, supplemented by streaming revenue, syndication, and merchandise sales. Marketing campaigns were optimized via data analytics, A/B testing, and demographic segmentation, ensuring that every dollar spent contributed to measurable engagement. Cross-channel integration, influencer partnerships, and international distribution further extended revenue potential, reinforcing the notion that fiscal prudence and creative excellence are not mutually exclusive but complementary forces in franchise filmmaking. From a human psychology and behavioral economics perspective, the film's narrative design rewards careful audience investment. Clay's decision-making, tactical problem-solving, and moral deliberations invite viewers to engage cognitively as well as emotionally. Operational realism and scientific accuracy create opportunities for viewers to mentally simulate scenarios, consider ethical trade-offs, and predict outcomes, enhancing engagement and memorability. By intertwining character psychology with procedural fidelity, the film cultivates intellectual investment alongside visceral entertainment, amplifying long-term audience loyalty and franchise value. This equilibrium of art, tech, and capital is reinforced by meticulous production management. Scheduling, resource allocation, and team hierarchy were optimized to ensure that creative vision could be executed efficiently. Leadership structures mirrored corporate governance principles, where time, personnel, and material resources are treated as capital to be maximized. The result is a production that delivers technical sophistication and narrative depth without inflating costs unnecessarily, demonstrating that disciplined project management can enhance both artistry and profitability. The critical reception and awards acknowledgement further validate this synthesis. Technical Guild nominations, positive review aggregation, and audience acclaim reflect the success of the film's integrated approach. Recognition in cinematography, sound design, and production design not only enhances cultural capital, but also signals to investors and studios that strategic investment in narrative fidelity and technical precision produces measurable returns. The film's long-term value is thus anchored in a combination of artistic credibility, technological innovation, and financial intelligence. Moreover, the film's cultural and educational relevance contributes to its enduring legacy. Accurate representations of tactical operations, beekeeping, cybersecurity, and ethical decision-making elevate it from conventional action fare to a vehicle for cognitive engagement and learning. Secondary markets, including streaming platforms, educational institutions, and professional training environments, further amplify this value. These extensions exemplify how intellectual and cultural capital can translate into long-term financial sustainability, illustrating a multidimensional approach to franchise longevity. The audience experience is central to this harmony. Every choice, from sound layering to camera movement, from environmental authenticity to narrative pacing, is calibrated to maximize emotional and cognitive engagement. By appealing simultaneously to intuition, intellect, and sensory perception, the film ensures that viewers remain invested throughout the narrative arc. This multifaceted engagement contributes to repeat viewership, positive word of mouth, and brand loyalty, confirming that strategic alignment of art, technology, and capital produces both cultural and financial dividends. In reflecting upon The Beekeeper 2, it is clear that its significance extends beyond the immediate box office. It represents a blueprint for modern franchise filmmaking where creativity, operational rigor, technological investment, and financial strategy are interdependent. By embracing research, ethical complexity, and technical authenticity, the filmmakers demonstrate that audience satisfaction, critical acclaim, and commercial success are not isolated goals but interconnected outcomes. This film serves as a case study in holistic cinematic intelligence, offering insights into how contemporary cinema can be both impactful and profitable. If you found this deep dive meaningful, my literature-loving friends, consider liking and subscribing so we can keep decoding the business and beauty of cinema together. The Beekeeper 2 exemplifies how cinematic endeavors, when orchestrated with vision and discipline, can illuminate the interplay between morality, innovation, and creative economics, offering not just entertainment but enduring insight into the craft of filmmaking.